What happens when a billionaire CEO of a luxury car brand is treated like any other outsider? Naomi Caldwell, the founder of Caldwell Motors, steps into her own Beverly Hills dealership, disguised as a regular customer, only to be met with subtle but glaring racial bias. Will her undercover investigation expose the systemic prejudice in her own company and ignite a movement for change? How far will she go to challenge the status quo? Join us in reflecting on this true story. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification for more daily stories like this. Share your thoughts in the comments and let us know where you are watching from. We would love to hear from you. Naomi Caldwell, the billionaire CEO of Caldwell Motors, stepped into her own luxury car dealership in Beverly Hills with an air of quiet determination. For years, she had built her automotive empire from scratch, shattering glass ceilings as a black woman in an industry dominated by old traditions and exclusive legacies. Yet today, as she walked through the sleek glass doors of her showroom, she was treated not as the visionary leader who had created the brand, but as a mere customer. Dressed in a simple outfit that deliberately conveyed neither wealth nor struggle, Naomi was there to see if the promise of equality she had instilled in her company held true in practice. Instead, she was met with cold indifference and subtle cues that marked her as an outsider. Inside, the atmosphere was immaculate. Gleaming luxury vehicles were displayed like works of art, and impeccably dressed sales staff moved with rehearsed charm. Naomi's request to view the Bugatti Chiron Supersport was met with hesitation, a fleeting doubt in the receptionist's eyes, and a calculated response from Richard Langford, the showroom manager. Richard's cool, analytical gaze assessed her not by her financial credentials, but by an unspoken criterion that favored white customers. As he casually explained that the model was reserved for a pre-approved client, Naomi felt the sting of discrimination, not from an unknown stranger, but from within her own organization. A meticulously penned letter lay on her mahogany desk, back at headquarters. A letter from David Williams, a longtime admirer of the brand, recounting his own experience of being subtly redirected away from high-end models, despite being financially prepared to purchase. The letter's words burned into her memory, a reminder that despite her best efforts, the culture of exclusivity had seeped into every corner of Caldwell Motors. Determined to uncover the truth, Naomi knew she had to step into the role of a regular customer, to witness firsthand the treatment dispensed to those who did not fit the mold of the ideal buyer. With a heavy heart yet steely resolve, she resolved to fight back against this system of bias, a battle that would soon shake the entire industry to its core. Boarding a flight to Los Angeles the following morning, Naomi left behind the polished skyline of New York and the familiarity of her executive office. In her rented black SUV at LAX, she reviewed the letter and recalled the days when every victory had come at the price of proving her worth in an industry that rarely made room for her. Now, as she approached the immaculate Beverly Hills showroom of Caldwell Motors, the environment struck her as both dazzling and disquieting. The showroom's glass facade reflected the bright California sun, and the interior exuded a sterile perfection, with every luxury car arranged as if under constant surveillance. Clad in a crisp white button-down, dark jeans, and clean sneakers, Naomi deliberately chose to be inconspicuous. Today, she was not the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar empire, but a potential customer determined to experience the truth for herself. As she entered, the air conditioning's cool embrace met her like a subtle prelude to what was to come. A well-dressed receptionist greeted her with a practiced smile that betrayed nothing of her true thoughts. Naomi calmly stated her desire to inspect the Bugatti Chiron Supersport. Almost immediately, she sensed a shift in the room. Eyes that had momentarily flickered with interest quickly shifted away. The receptionist hesitated, and then a junior salesperson, barely in his mid-20s, was sent forward. His voice was apologetic as he explained that the car was currently unavailable. Naomi's eyes darted to the glass partition, where the Bugatti stood flawless under showroom lights, a glaring contradiction to his words. Before she could press further, a tall man in a navy suit with salt and pepper hair approached. Richard Langford, whose reputation for high-end sales was well known, greeted her with a courteous yet analytically cold welcome. His scrutinizing glance made it clear he was not assessing her as a serious buyer, but as someone who did not belong. Without mentioning her identity or status, Naomi allowed herself to be treated as any other walk-in. In that moment, the subtle patterns emerged. White customers received immediate, enthusiastic service, while customers who looked like her were either ignored or gently dismissed. The showroom, with all its polished grandeur, revealed its hidden truth. Naomi's quiet observation turned into a careful study of every interaction inside the showroom. Seated in a lounge chair near the perimeter, she watched as customer after customer received differential treatment. A well-dressed older couple was ushered in with champagne and personalized attention, while a young black man, despite his sharp attire and confident air, was subtly redirected toward lower-end models. The sales staff, as if following a rehearsed script, appeared to evaluate each customer by a set of unspoken criteria, one that favored appearance and assumed status over genuine purchasing intent. Naomi felt a surge of clarity, and although she could have easily corrected the situation by announcing her identity, she chose silence. She wanted to observe the system at work without interference, to collect the evidence that would later dismantle the very policies she had fought so hard to implement. At one point, Naomi noticed a subtle but significant detail: a young employee named Maria Torres, whose demeanor betrayed uncertainty and internal conflict. Maria's hesitation when receiving orders from Richard Langford was not lost on Naomi. It was a quiet rebellion against the rigid protocol that dictated which customers deserved attention. Later, as Naomi sat at a corner table in a nearby cafe, stirring a cup of cold black coffee, she watched through large glass windows as the showroom staff continued their rehearsed performance. Every gesture, every dismissive nod or enthusiastic greeting was part of a pattern. Naomi's mind raced as she pieced together the undeniable truth. The system was filtering customers based not on their financial qualifications, but on their race and perceived social status. The letter from David Williams echoed in her thoughts, reaffirming that the discrimination was not isolated, but systemic. Determined to gather undeniable proof, Naomi contacted her trusted assistant, Daniel, instructing him to start recording interactions and to prepare a covert operation that would soon expose the deliberate bias at the heart of Caldwell Motors. With each passing minute, her resolve strengthened. She was not merely witnessing an injustice. She was about to wage a war against a system built on exclusion and prejudice. Later that day, Naomi initiated Phase 2 of her covert investigation. She discreetly arranged for a test scenario using a white male friend, Michael Reeves, who had the same financial credentials as she did, but carried none of the burdens of discrimination. As Michael walked into the showroom, the change in treatment was immediate and stark. A salesperson greeted him with warm enthusiasm, and within minutes, he was offered coffee, guided to a private lounge, and presented with a portfolio of exclusive vehicles. Naomi observed from a discreet distance as Richard Langford himself stepped forward to greet Michael, shaking his hand with an affable smile and ushering him toward the Bugatti Chiron Supersport. Every detail was meticulously recorded by Daniel, who captured the interaction on video. Michael's experience was a sharp contrast to Naomi's own, and the evidence was now irrefutable. Richard and his team were systematically favoring white customers. With the video in hand, Naomi's anger cooled into determined resolve. She spent the evening reviewing the footage repeatedly, noting every smug expression and calculated gesture that underscored the discriminatory policy. The evidence was damning and would soon form the cornerstone of her challenge against the status quo. Later, from her hotel room overlooking the Los Angeles skyline, Naomi drafted an email addressed to Jonathan Fields, a senior board member at Caldwell Motors. In the message, she detailed the blatant customer profiling and racial bias at the Beverly Hills showroom, warning that if no corrective action was taken, the scandal would be exposed to the public. Every word was measured, every sentence a calculated step toward dismantling the oppressive system. Meanwhile, within the showroom, tension simmered. Richard Langford, upon learning of the leak, convened an urgent meeting with his management team, issuing orders to delete any internal communications that might serve as evidence. His desperate measures, however, only confirmed Naomi's suspicions. As the night deepened, the seeds of rebellion had been sown. Naomi was now prepared to take the battle into the boardroom, armed with undeniable proof and the resolve to fight discrimination at its core. The next morning, the atmosphere at Caldwell Motors headquarters was electric with anticipation and dread. In the boardroom, among the most influential figures in the company, Naomi presented her case with calm authority. The room was silent as she began, recounting her undercover experience and unveiling the video evidence that captured Richard Langford's preferential treatment. Her voice was steady as she recounted the systematic exclusion of minority customers, a practice that undermined the very values of inclusivity and excellence on which Caldwell Motors had been built. Naomi's words struck a chord, and murmurs of discontent spread among the board members. The evidence was irrefutable. While white customers were welcomed with open arms and offered the highest-end models, customers of color were consistently relegated to less desirable options. Richard Langford, visibly rattled by the public airing of these practices, attempted to downplay the issue. He argued that the showroom followed a strict customer service model based on efficiency and purchasing history. Yet, his explanations only fueled Naomi's argument that such efficiency was a thinly veiled excuse for racial profiling. As she laid out the documented complaints, internal emails, and her own first-hand experience, Naomi challenged the board to confront the toxic culture that had been allowed to flourish under Richard's management. Some board members, uncomfortable with the implications, shifted in their seats while others nodded in quiet agreement. Naomi's unwavering stance was a call to action, not only to reform Caldwell Motors' policies, but to set a new standard across the luxury auto industry. In a decisive moment, she warned that if the board did not act swiftly, she would take her revelations public, igniting a scandal that could jeopardize the entire company. With the weight of her convictions and the undeniable evidence at hand, Naomi concluded her presentation, leaving the room with an ultimatum that would soon force the board to choose between preserving an outdated system of exclusion or embracing a future founded on fairness and accountability. Naomi Caldwell's journey from humiliation in her own showroom to a relentless crusade for justice is a testament to the power of integrity and perseverance. Confronted by the blatant discrimination at Caldwell Motors, Naomi chose not to hide behind her executive title, but to experience the system firsthand as a customer. Her undercover investigation uncovered a deeply rooted pattern of racial bias, meticulously orchestrated by showroom manager Richard Langford and perpetuated by a corporate culture that valued exclusivity over equality. With undeniable video evidence and first-hand accounts, Naomi built a case that not only exposed systemic injustice within her company, but also threatened to upend the entire luxury auto industry. In the boardroom, Naomi's measured yet impassioned presentation forced the company's most powerful figures to confront the truth. She challenged the board to address the discriminatory practices that had long tarnished Caldwell Motors' reputation, warning that failure to act would lead to a public scandal far more damaging than the internal crisis already unfolding. Her bold stance was not simply about safeguarding her company's image. It was about upholding the fundamental principles of fairness, respect, and merit that had guided her career. Naomi's determination to reform a broken system resonated with those who had been marginalized and silenced for too long. By holding the board accountable and demanding concrete changes in customer service policies, she not only redefined what it meant to lead with integrity in the luxury market, but also inspired a broader movement for equity across industries. Her actions proved that true leadership involves not only building success, but also challenging injustice wherever it appears. As investors, employees, and customers began to rally behind her vision, Naomi Caldwell emerged as a powerful symbol of change, a reminder that when one person stands up against prejudice, the ripple effects can transform an entire industry.